Okay, Mike Schwarz from IIMS. This is a presentation on how to manage your cash flow. And as I've subtitled it, in other words, the bane of all small businesses. Cash flow is indeed your lifeblood. Let me start by giving you a very simple definition. The definition of cash flow is the total amount of money being transferred into and out of a business, especially as affecting the liquidity. So what is cash flow management? It's quite simply the process of planning a company's schedule for paying their bills and estimating when your income is likely to be received. Cash flow management helps a company avoid damaging its relationships with its creditors by not paying bills on time and being forced into bankruptcy. Again, you're operating in quite a difficult marketplace. Estimating income is not a simple thing to do, but I'm sure you have peaks and troughs in your business. There will be the summertime maybe when there's more activity on the water. Ships tends to be all year round, but the small craft sector particularly is much more seasonal, especially in the UK. So you need to develop some kind of estimation system which gives you an understanding of when your income is going to be coming in. So put simply, businesses actually go bust in the long term, not, through a lack of profit. It is this lack of profit. You have to make profit. But in the short term, they only go bust because there's no cash. There's no money within the business to pay the bills. And put simply, cash flow, therefore, is the life supply of your business. It's a fact, certainly in the UK, I saw some statistics very recently that something like 70% of new small businesses launched every year go bust. They go out of business because of poor cash flow management. Setting up good control systems, it's not difficult to do. Most surveyors, I think, these days actually take money up front. But if you are one of the old-fashioned surveyors who likes to invoice their clients, make sure you get your money in on time. Get paid as soon as possible. After all, it's your money. You're providing a service for that. It's your money. It's not their money. Don't be frightened if you're dealing with a bigger company, get to know the credit control clerk in the office. Go and buy them a bag of donuts or something. Look after them. Make them feel special. Then when you phone up and you ask for money, they will pay you. You must set clear payment terms for your customers. And of course, that needs to be set out in your terms and conditions when you present your original contract to your customer. Make sure invoices are sent out promptly. And as I've said, firmly chase all debts when they're due. Don't let them lapse. Don't offer credit to bad payers. The best advice I can give you with a bad payer is to send them to your competitor marine surveyor down the road. Let them have the problem because, frankly, you don't need it. As I've said, one of the hardest things is to predict what's ahead. So you have to prepare for cash flow, peaks and troughs. We know very well at IIMS where our trough is going to be. Our trough tends to come in September, August, September time. We've gathered all of our membership fees in at the start of the year. We're living off the fat for those first few months. And then as we go through the year, the cash stocks tend to dwindle until we invoice again for the new membership year around about now at the end of November. So we can predict where the low points are. And what we make sure we do is we don't take on big financial commitments in those August and September months. Allow for the seasonality. Try and use your market knowledge wherever you possibly can. Think about your pricing structure. Something I believe quite firmly about, and I've talked about this before, is as a marine surveyor, you are a professional. You are masters of your trade. You are providing a service at a top quality level. Charge accordingly. If you're not charging enough and you're offering something on the cheap, that, I'm afraid, is a spiral downwards. State of the economy could be a factor. You may have to adjust your pricing depending on how the economy is looking, and also the political uncertainty, which I alluded to earlier, is also a problem potentially. So always best to err on the side of caution. We all like to be glass half full people, I'm sure, but don't run away with crazy notions and be overly optimistic. Be realistic at all times. Avoid unnecessary expenditure. You have to think lean and mean. You have to scrutinize every item you buy. Shop around. IMS, we tend to take 3 quotes on anything before we make a decision. We may not choose the cheapest one. We may not choose the most expensive one. We may go for the one in the middle. But some things, definitely, you will just take the cheapest price because they are consumables and you don't want to waste unnecessary money. It's worth spending some time just to shop around. You must understand where your cash is going. And as I've said, make sure you get value for money. So I put this in because I remember a company a few years ago who spent a fortune on some lovely new pot plants. They spent a fortune. They leased these plants. It looked like a conservatory or an orangery full of wonderful plants when you went into the office space. They went bust within a year. They hadn't realized that actually the new pot plants were really not a good investment and a total waste of money. So they might look nice, but you know what? They're not going to grow your business anytime soon. Just consider your supplier relationships. Can you extend your payment terms with suppliers? So if you're gathering your money in promptly, and then you can do a deal with the supplier to pay on, say, 60 days or even 90 days, that's going to assist your cash flow no end. See, you'll be surprised. We talk to some suppliers sometimes. People are often much more flexible than you realize, but until you have a dialogue with them, you can't be sure. Try and keep hold of your money as long as you can. This will help you to regulate cash flow and will also make sure that in the event there's a problem looming, you can actually deal with it. Set up regular payment plans, spread the payment load, very, very important. So you've got a lot of money coming in. It's tempting, isn't it? Let's go and splash out on the latest FLIR camera for $20,000, or let's go and splash out on an impressive new piece of kit. Or do you know what? My van needs replacing. I'll go and spend some money on a new van. It's fine. But do think wisely before splurging on excessive purchases. Try and hold on to your liquid cash. If you're buying assets like computers or PCs, ask if the supplier will offer a finance deal over a year or more. Quite common for them to offer to easy terms over 3 years. And certainly in the UK at the moment, interest rates are so low as we've known for many, many hundreds of years. So it makes sense to spread your payments out and take on finance deals over more than a year. Make sure you keep on the right side of your bank. You must be on the right side of your lenders. I would suggest you need to keep your books reasonably up to date. So if you need to show your figures because you might need to put an overdraft in place, then make sure you are ready and you can present those. And it's always worth having an overdraft facility in place. IMS has a fairly modest overdraft facility in place. We haven't used it. It doesn't cost anything to set up, but it's there in the eventuality that something should go wrong. If it does go wrong, we then don't have to go to the lenders because we've already got the thing in place. And if you are struggling to make repayments, talk to your lender. Don't bury your head in the sand about the debt. Don't think it'll just go away because it just doesn't. Try and spot the signs early. Are your sales and turnover dropping? Do you know what the cause is? Can you pinpoint the cause? Very, very important if you notice a drop in your turnover. Are your costs spiraling and becoming out of control? Are your customers taking longer to pay you than they did? Why is that happening? Are you incurring late penalties because you're not filing income tax returns on time? All unnecessary payments. Make sure you don't incur late penalties. Are you realizing that you can settle your supply invoices only later than you would normally like to do? Those are all signs that your cash flow is starting to suffer. So don't ignore the warnings, heed them. Sometimes you do need to take a step back and you need to see things clearly. If you are finding life is a struggle and your cash flow is constantly poor and you're going from day to day or eking out an existence day to day, ask yourself why. Sales volume too low? Services price too low? As I've already said, don't underprice your services. You are professionals at what you do. Charge a fair market rate. Can you chase your payments in more quickly if you're owed money? Ultimately, you have to be level-headed about your business and its future. If you're not making a profit, it pains me to say, but you might need to drastically rethink things. the way you do them, and indeed even to see whether or not your business has a future. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Dave just to stop the recording.